Hello, everybody. Hello, D-Man. It's going to be a very controversial live, I think. It's going to be an interesting one. Probably the most interesting live I have done yet. On some level. Sorry for my hair. Hello, Nature Fan. Hello, Carry Me Through. Yeah, it's going to be by far the best one. It's not a debate, but I got two sets of very conflicting scenarios, two very conflicting ideas. And you'll see what I mean once I start. You know, I really wish I could do lives on my computer because I don't like setting them up on my phone. Because more often than not, I slip and my finger either does stupid stuff. 5-bar and 5G. Interesting. I have no bars and full Wi-Fi. It's very weird, but I know why, so. You gotta look at the ceiling for a second while I plug in my handy dandy phone thing. What is going on? Whatever. Probably Wi-Fi, maybe? Little curved lines. We'll give it a few more minutes, maybe. Okay, so disclaimer, I just want to put this out there right now. I am in no ways during this video or during this live not coming out the Catholic Church. Catholic Church is amazing. Don't have a problem with them. This part of history, a little bit wonky. I'm gonna be honest. It's a little bit wonky. So we'll get through it together, but it's wonky. I hope your day has been good. I don't think there is. I don't think there is anything higher than 5G. I don't know. Snapjaw 1963. Were you once human? I hope not, because, man, that would suck. Sorry. 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 I'm in a mood. Sorry. I did not mean to come at you. I hope you're having a great day, that you get everything you deserve today. And no, I will not be answering that question, because it's like D-Man said, it is not relevant. So, Nature Fan, I know. I know it's not good. And I'm trying. I really am. I'm trying. Okay. Getting into today's subject. Moderators, it is on you. Hello, BRSS Studios 3S3Z. Snapjaw 1963, I do apologize, but I do hope you're having a good day. Okay, we're going to start. As wonky as this is. Hi, I'm Charlie, and this is the Natureverse 4.7, and today we are looking at cats and the church. And it's a segment of history that sadly potentially ties in with another equally sad part of history. A terrible part of history, in fact, that ties in a little bit later with some other stuff. Chat. Snapjaw has a question for you. How's your day going? It's going good. I'm not trying to. Trust me, not trying to. I'm trying not to, Nature Fan. I don't know if you were talking to me or not. I want you to keep your mind open as we go through this, because things may not appear as they appear in the pages of history. And I say may not be as they appear because, oddly enough, history on this topic has gone two ways. And we're going to talk about it slowly. Maybe. So our story begins, or our history lesson begins, with Pope Gregory IX. He was the 178th Pope of the Catholic Church. He was Pope from 1227 to 1241. And he is known for putting out a papal bull that made it quite clear that cats bore Satan's spirit. And for those of you that aren't Catholic or have never been Catholic, that really made no sense. But for those of you who don't understand what I just said, a papal bull is a formal public decree, edict, or charter issued by the Pope. And I will type that into the live, so just in case I'm saying it wrong. You can see it. So, a little bit about him. Just a little bit about him. he didn't like mob violence, didn't like it. Bye. Have a great day. Didn't like torture. But he was okay with dealing with heretics. Oh, I didn't do it. Gosh darn it. Sorry. I'm going to post it. Somebody 2837. Let's see. I really cannot let. I gotta remember, guys, I am beating myself up right now. I've been doing so good lately. Mostly. Okay. Back to it. He again, he didn't like mob violence, didn't like torture. That is where it gets a little bit weird, D-Man. That's where it gets a little bit weird. Because a lot of it seems focused on just cats. But then you get the hint that maybe it's just black cats. But this is really weird. Trust me, it gets a lot weirder. But anyway, he was okay with dealing with heretics in the way that you would think the Inquisition would deal with them. He ordered that trials be done for the Inquisition. But those trials were fake. They were for show. They weren't really being fair about it at all. He was putting on these shows for those looking in. He was also known for becoming quite angry at times. But back to the cats. So this was called Vox in Rama and was issued officially on June 13th, 1233. His theory about cats came from evidence gathered from inquisitors, which means, yes, it came from people who were coerced into giving confessions, which, bear in mind, may or may not be true. Stuff coming out of people's mouths when they're in stress. These confessions made the Pope believe that cats were a symbol of bad luck and a curse to people. Black cats. But very possibly all cats. Now, you should also know that this edict apparently only went out to Germany, a region in Germany. So they say. That's one thing that was said, is that it only went out to one area in Germany, and that's the only place, because things didn't magically spread out into the world very fast back then. It led people to accusing other people of witchery just because they were upset with them over something like not giving them the freshest apples, or having an argument earlier in the day. Don't worry, black cats being bad luck it goes back way earlier than Pope Gregory. Cats may have been connected with people that worshipped the evil one. Simply put, cats were called the vessel of the devil. And let's just say that things were pretty bad for the house cat during this time. Let's just say that things, they were bad. There was even a festival called, I'm not going to pronounce it. I'm just going to put it in to the script. That's one way to put it. But I think it was much worse than even that, Carrie. I think it was much worse than that. And I don't think that's what it meant. I don't think it meant the cat litter. But what do I know? Or the Festival of Cats, which, by the way, still goes on today, though it's very different. Let's just say that it involves church steeples. It involves that. Just in a very different way and in a very much more humane way. Remember that this edict was not meant for the entirety of the church. It was a letter sent to one region in Germany. So the question is, we don't really know. We know that he had what amounts to a bad temper. He was in for the Inquisition. You get that you get that feeling like he was putting on a show for the people. Carrie, I can't answer that because I got the feeling like it was all of Europe that was in on this. But then some websites were like, no, this really was not happening, but we'll talk about that in a second. The question is, how much of the Vox and Rama is true, and how much of it is hearsay? Cat populations supposedly took a massive drop. Come the 1300s, when the plague hit, guess which animal took some of the blame? Cats. Once again, they were being unalived because of that. Now, keep in mind that if cats were around, they may have curtailed some of the rodent issues. But then some people say that the cats, it didn't happen all over Europe. And cats and dogs both got it. Both got the plague. And that's what did it. Now, the cats should have helped curb the plague. One would think, like D-Man was saying. Now, by the time the Puritans arrived in America, or in North America, they didn't treat cats any better. Cats were still taken care of. Much in the same way that they were dealt with in Pope Gregory's day. Now, this is no longer active, but as we are going to discuss, there are conflicts. Yes. So now I'm really going to mess with you because we've talked about this. Now we're going to talk about this. If you buy into that myth, into that story, it doesn't paint a really good picture of what was going on in Europe. Yes, black cats got a bad rap. Yes, there was a Voxen Rama. Yes, he did use the black cat as a symbol of the devil. But I saw way more sites, speaking of Pope Gregory and the unaliving of cats across Europe. Under Pope Innocent the Eighth, I believe, who became Pope in the 1400s, cats were once again identified with witchcraft. And once again, they were unalived because people were nutty. Where did I leave? They were used as an identifier of a person that might be involved in witchery. And supposedly the church excommunicated cats. I do believe that there were cats in Europe that were unalived because of this edict that went out. I know that there are plenty of people, based on pictures that were put out, that people did have cats, that people had pet cats. Farmers had cats to keep mice away. There's even talk of nuns having pet cats in their clustery, whatever that's called, nunneries, and possibly even monasteries having them. So the question is, which story, which history do you go by? Do you go by the history that is said where the edict only went out to Germany? Or do you buy into the edict encompassing Europe? Keep in mind that for the edict to be spread outside of Germany, people would have had to deliver that message. Is it possible that Germans spread out from there, or that maybe a traitor had heard the news and carried it into other lands? Maybe. We don't, it's a very confusing things. It would have faded. I think just like the Inquisition was there to sort of wipe out what they saw as heretics and witches, I think the cats got swept up into it. I sort of feel like you said, where it was localized, but I can also see where stuff travels. Even back then, it may not have taken, because that was what did I say, 1232? 1233, this came out. The plague, a little bit later. I can see where messages could get traveled. Inns, people traveled, merchants traveled, they picked up news. I could see where that would be news. And you would have probably spread that tidbit. And a lot of Europe was Catholic. Might have spread. Not saying that everybody did this. We definitely know that at one time this festival was happening. We know that the Inquisition was it in Europe? I don't know. Cats were there because remember, the plague isn't necessarily carried by the rodents, it's carried by the fleas. And the fleas, if they got on a dog or cat, they would spread. In some cases, dogs were even targeted because they thought that the dogs messing with the bodies helped to spread it. And maybe it did. History, sometimes we grab onto a story and we make it way bigger than it was. Is that human nature? Is that what happened here? That somebody grabbed onto that story and just exploded. Supposedly in 1990, that's what happened. The internet grabbed this moment in history and it just exploded. I'm hoping that it was more symbolic type of a thing and that cats weren't targeted. But even now, black cats aren't necessarily favored. They're euthanized, sadly, more so than other cats, believe it or not. Some people still hold on to the whole black cat cross your path, bad luck. I can honestly say I don't. I think black cats are cool. I want one. But yeah, I'm really mixed on this one. Because this is not the first time. This is not the first time that I've heard this scenario or this history. And every time I see it, I'm more and more perplexed. So I don't know. I don't see black cats as being bad. I think some things just die hard. And I think superstition is a very powerful thing, even today. I think it still grips some people by the toes and refuses to let go. We are going to be covering other things that aren't going to be so convoluted. I feel like this one was messed up. And some of the other stuff is going to be messed up too. But this one was equally interesting because you get two very different feelings on it. Like he definitely, we know he definitely put out that edict. We know it went out. What some of the information that I was able to get claims that it went out sort of globally, within Europe. Other things have it being where it went out to Germany, which sort of makes sense based on where some of these events took place. That makes a little bit of sense. I don't know. Luckily, this is no longer an issue. We've come to our senses. We realize that cats are wonderful animals and definitely not associated with darkness. Uh, was Gregory German? He was Italian. And he was born in 1145. He belonged to a noble family, becoming Pope in 1227. So, no, not German, but still, it does make you wonder. Well, it's not his official name. Like it's not his real name. That's the name he probably went by. That was Latin. And this was his birth name. That would have been, he would have had money from the sounds of it. Um right, right. He was a cardinal. He was born near Rome. He is supposedly um was in his 90s or his hundreds when he passed away. Um One of the things that he did, and this is the guy that the letter went to. He expanded the Inquisition's powers and assigned Conrad von Marburg to encompass the investigation of heresy throughout the whole of Germany. So that's a little bit more about him. He was also a lawyer. Which is cool. It does say that, and I'm going to add this at the end. That's okay. It says that it only says that this is the first time that I've seen this actually in print. We know, like I said a few times, we know that this Vox in Roma was put out. Allegedly, he ordered the extermination of black cats. Yeah, it seems like that. It does seem like that. Whether that's because lawyers have money or what. Oh, nope, you're fine. So I'm not meaning to make it look like this was a thing. More, I want you to leave this live thinking, I'm going to go out and see what I can find. And if I can get you to do that, to dig a little bit deeper into history, good thing. Thinking for yourself is awesome. We're not going to have another one of these lives for a while, if I remember right. And I'm pretty sure that I know for me, they come via no, not at all. For me, a lot of the names that I use come from a name generator. And I just pick names that sound good. For the most part. Our next trip into human history and nature is going to be talking about ergots and the Salem witch trials. I think we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about ergot and what it does to the body and the mind. And then we'll talk about the witch trials, because we're here for the nature, the history. Yeah. we can do otherwise. We are going to be doing the Silk Road, the plague, early Homo species, domestication, and that's where it ends for right now. No idea. My name comes from Germany. Which translates directly to free man or man. Interesting. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I love these little side things that we do. Hi, Mr. 32K. Owl Man? Yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of our scientific names are Latin or a little bit of Greek thrown in every once in a while, but then you get names that are used and that just throws a whole different thing into it. Oh, my goodness. You ever really want to take a nap, but you know you can't take a nap because it'll just throw you off? I am trying to relax. I really am. It's not working. I love Latin is cool. I wish it wasn't a thing of the past so much. I had a hard enough time in high school with Spanish that at least now I can sort of read it a little bit. Muy poquito. And if somebody speaks slow enough, I can pick out words, but ooh, nice. Nice. I'd like to get on I'd like to go out and do some hiking, but it's still a little bit chilly. It was 39 degrees when I went out to get the stuff out of the car for my parents. It was cold. No, I just had a hard time with it. I don't know why. But we had to have a foreign language, so I figured Spanish would come in a lot more handy than French. And my school only offered French and English, or French and Spanish. So actually, that's not true. We also offered Russian, which was different. Why does it do that? I have no idea. I had friends who took it. I was working on German because my dad's family, I should say, is Swiss. They're Swiss, but they're German speaking Swiss. And I thought, oh, it'd be really cool to speak my native tongue. And I'm like, yeah, I'm never going to use this. So I switched to Spanish. Yeah, I'm not really into languages either. That's going to make it hard. There is. Man. I think I'm going to turn on the TV. Japan has a dozen distinct indigenous, regional, or and minority languages with estimates ranging from 8 to 16. However, whoops. Is that the right word? I think I got it spelled right. That is not what I typed. How did it show up over here? Okay. So that is Japanese, the de facto national language spoken by over 99% of the population. But a lot of it has to do, I would think, with where you lived because of it being separate islands. You would have, language would have developed depending upon where you lived. I mean, in the United States, In North America, there are or were 150 to 296 distinct indigenous languages. It is believed that before European contact that there were over 300 to 500 languages spoken. So that's cool. Anyway, guys, I'm going to say goodbye because my throat. I'm ready to say goodbye. Again, guys, take tonight's live with a little grain of salt because history is floppy on it. The next one will not be, I promise. With that, I will say see you in the next one. Bye, guys.